Robbie, a few days on from Wasps, how do you reflect on it all now?
Oh, it's like anything. I think it's one of those difficult ones. I think what you've got to be careful of is not getting too emotionally wrapped up in just kind of, like I say, getting frustrated with little things in the game, because I think sport's not really like that. I think you've got to deal with the winning and losing in a similar way as you can if you want to have a good culture and a good training and a good coaching environment at a club. Because the reality is, and the truth of things are, you shouldn't really analyse a game much differently whether you win or lose. The mistakes you make in a game you should look to work on, and the things that go well you should praise people for. And I think you shouldn't change that depending on the result of a 1-point game. So I think Monday, yesterday, we did a very similar review to we always would do. We showed the stuff that we think we can work on, and things that we work on week by week, and the things that we felt we didn't get right. But we also made sure we looked at the stuff that went really well, and we highlighted the positives and the good things we brought to the game. And we did it in a very even manner, because I think that's the way to do it. And I think we'd have done it very similarly if we'd have won. Obviously, the body language and the feeling about the place would have been a little bit different, but our review would have been very similar. And I think that's probably a good way to start, is you get the stuff out of the way on a Monday, that everything get put to bed, and then you just talk about how you want to move forward.
3 rounds of the season to go in the scheduled season, and still a lot of excitement, and that's probably a good driver for you to go into Friday with.
Yeah, and I think that's the important way to look at things, is what can we learn from that game that we can use now in the next 3 weeks. And for me, and I said it to the players straight after the game, and I think it was the best way to look at the game really, was that if you learn anything from our Champions Cup pool, on actually what happened at the weekend, it was that in the end of the day, Wasps kept their pool in their hands right to the end, and that made sure they had a home quarter final. And you have to say, in a game that tight, did that make the difference? Well, possibly it did. You can't say for definite, but possibly it did. But what we did in our Champions Cup pool, we probably underperformed in round 1. We went away from home. Not only did we not win the game, but we actually didn't even get a losing bonus point. And that really already took the pool out of our hands, took it out of our direct control, because we didn't get anything out of our first game. And I think I said to the players, if you want to learn anything from that, if you want to use the hurt and the disappointment of this game, think about what could have made it different. And what could have made it different was keeping things in our hands. And as you say, there's 3 games of Premiership left. We're in second. Well, it's in our hands to finish second. We can't control whether we finish first, because Saracens are playing their games. But we're in second place, and if we win our games and we collect the points we need, we'll stay in second place. So we can work, and we can make a home semi-final happen. And I'm not afraid to say that to players. If you want to take something out of that whole campaign, take out the fact that when someone puts something in your hand, you take charge of it. And that's going to be our aim now over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And from past experience, Gloucester away is a tough old day, and they'll be hurting as well from a Euro exit themselves.
That's right, and I think that's the real interesting thing about this game. It's almost the perfect game coming out of the European weekend, isn't it? 2 teams that have both suffered close losses and have probably put emotionally an awful lot into the game, and now have to recover on a short turnaround. We both played Saturday, and now we've both got to get out on the pitch on a Friday night. And it's a great test for both sides to see, who can re-energise and reinvigorate themselves quickly for an important game of rugby. And what we have to do is we have to focus on ourselves and say, well, as I've said, if we focus on ourselves and we do well, we can start to put in another game that says we can get a home semi-final. Gloucester, they're fighting for that European position, and so they've got a different battle to fight for, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Team-wise, you're nearly at full strength still, aren't you? And Morelo's probably the only doubt going into the game, but that's a positive as well. There's a lot of continuity in the squad.
Yeah, and I think that's very important for us at this stage. Obviously, actually, we're a little bit thicker strength-wise than we were last week. Obviously, there's a little bit of a doubt on Muzzer. He's had a scan, and we'll find out a little bit more about him a little bit later. But Sam Hill's up and training fully now, which is great news. Phil Dolman, it might be a little bit early for him this weekend, but he should be available for our next game. And so the injuries, doubts are lifting. And of course the other benefit we're getting is the important players to us like Dave Ewers, like Henry Slade, Mitch Lees, Damien Welsh, Luke Cowandick, guys who've had relatively long-term injuries are in and getting game time now, and they're going to improve right to the end of the season. Guys like Lockie Turner now are settling in and getting game time. There's a lot. Jack Knowles back with us now and settling straight into back into the Exeter camp. There's a lot of real positives for us, and we've got to make sure we drive every one of them home.
And finally, what sort of threats do you expect from Gloucester? They're notoriously strong at home, but you've also seen weaknesses in their game, I'd imagine. This year.
Well, I think the big thing that we've got to be really careful of is, you particularly look at them playing against Leicester a couple of weeks ago on a nice day, and they really rattle Leicester. They really rattle them with a fast tempo, offloading, wide passing game. And it was some exciting rugby. It was some good rugby. They counter-attacked very hard, counter-attacked from deep. Which is always a threat, because the minute you expect kicks, you can leave yourself vulnerable in that front line. So we've looked at their last few games very closely. I know that they will be disappointed with the home game last week against the Dragons. I think they'll know that there were a couple of areas they could tidy up, and they'll work very hard on those this week. So we're not preparing to go there to play a Gloucester team that's on its way down. We're preparing to go there and play a Gloucester team that's going to fight, and we know we're going to have to turn up physically and mentally bang on to make sure we can put in a big performance.